No, man, that's awesome. Yeah, go check his stuff out. Follow him on Facebook. Get the stuff. He's definitely going to help you. So going back to what we are talking about with that, George. So you're in a dark place. You're going through things. You're trying things externally that's not working. And then what made you start to, because I know you do stuff like with breath work and inner healing and stuff like that. What made you even go toward that? Because men that I know mostly are not willing to, when most time we try to fix it ourselves and we don't ask for help.
Well, here's the thing, man. I lost everything. So I had nothing to lose, like legitimately nothing to lose and everything to gain. Right. And so I just looked at my life and I said, what the fuck? Like, okay, like what I was doing was not working clearly. And if I kept doing it, I wouldn't be here today. And so I said, okay, I have a daughter. You know, I'm miserable in my career. I'm miserable in my love, like all these things. And so hiring a coach was my first step. And that happened to be like the creation of his own men's group at the same time. And I went to my first retreat ever. I didn't tell anybody. I just took off. I told my ex-wife because like she had my daughter, went off the grid, bam, breath work and shadow work and all these things. I had no clue what was going on. And I wrote about it a little bit in my book. And that was the birth of like this new man that I am today. Like, because I had released so much and connected with humans in a different level that I haven't had in years. And I joined the men's group and I started doing the work. And what I mean by doing the work is I took a look at my life bit by bit and stopped running and accepted it all and realized that like I'm here today because of my story. So I didn't want to be afraid of my story. I actually wanted to own my story. And by hopefully owning my story, I could help someone else in a darker place that I was. And hopefully they didn't get to that place, right? Because most of us, we will run from our pain, right? And the only way through it is to let our heart feel and to let our heart actually heal our heart. And you can only do that by acceptance. And sometimes acceptance is this massive word, but surrender is also a beautiful word. You know, when you surrender to your life and you surrender to things that are unfolding, you can find a lot of the things that you seek because you're going within instead of externally.
No, I agree with you. So like I went to my first mastermind and it was like a sales one, but actually turned into a sales healing retreat. I had no idea in May. And that's where I met our friend, George Bryant. He was one of the guests there, but just, I agree with you on that. Finding a group that you can be, I think for men for sure, be you and be vulnerable, which is hard, I think, because again, I grew up in that era of you had to be tough and sitting and doing the breath work, or like I can do like 8 minutes. So like I can meditate for 8 minutes after I have to time myself because after that I'm fidgeting around but I agree with you. It's just getting into that place where you can start to heal.
Yeah, you have to find people who want to lift you up. And most of your everyday environment, they subconsciously like sabotage your personal growth, like your true potential, your truest self. Not because they want to do it on purpose, but because, like as Joseph Campbell says with the hero's journey, like that is your ordinary world. And so we have what we call what Joseph Campbell calls like calls to action every day in our life, yet we reject them because it's we can't hear him. We're not ready to hear him yet. And so at one point, the things that make us change, it's like our smack in the face, right? Like it's like on our initiation to change, and we cross that threshold and then we move into the unknown by accepting it. And then all of a sudden we meet mentors, we meet people, we do all these crazy things. And next thing you know, you're in another cycle.
Yep. And it changes. Yeah. I'm with you. Like 5 years ago, I was in a really bad place. Just for myself and just with my sales job, with life and not feeling like I could, cover as a man because we were on food stamps. I was working 2 jobs doing sales. And now I'm to the point where I've gone through that and had to accept it to where now I'm actually, making good money. My wife can stay home and do what she wants, which is good. But I think, like you said, I don't think people do it on purpose. I agree with you there. I think it's just that it's a natural tendency of them to respond that way by their environment or how they're brought up or thoughts or stuff like that.
Yeah, to dig a little bit deeper, it's not that we're doing these things because we want to. We want to change, right? It's that most of the time we are hardwired for these subconscious familiar patterns,
Mhm.
right? Meaning that they're the things that we saw growing up, the things that happened to us as children, right? And so that's why, in order to do the work, like I always get people to move their bodies first,
Mhm.
because when they're moving their bodies, they feel a little bit better, and then they can like dig deeper, right? I don't just go into deep work and like say, all right, let's do it. Like
Right.
I want you to move good and feel better first, especially when you're having a challenging time, and then go into it. So if you can understand that there, no matter where your life is at, right, you have a pattern in your life and a story that was created that is probably sabotaging your personal growth and
Mhm.
preventing you from truly unlocking your potential,
Yeah, no,
right?
I agree.
Maybe it's in your health, maybe it's in your wealth, maybe it's in your family, your friends, whatever, right? There's something there that is blocking your true potential. And until you go back to find out where that story started, you're probably never going to really be able to break free from those chains.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that that whole self accusate I can't say it. The word is not coming to my mouth right. Um, re, Figuring out who you really are. I was trying to use a big word, it didn't work, so I'm just going to
It's
say
all
it
right.
that way. It's something that you need to do, and like we moved 1,000 miles away from our family just so that we could start finding who we were. Not that they're bad people, but like you said, that environment that you grow up in, the people that you're around, how they perceive you, and then you play your role. And you have to get to the point where you don't want to play your role anymore. Like I want to play my role, who I really am, not who someone else thinks I should be, because I only get one trip around, one trip here.
Yeah. I mean, I joke in my, well, I don't used to joke about it. Now I don't joke about it, but I wrote in my book, I said, if I ever returned to New Hampshire, it would be the death of me. And it is the death of me in many different forms. But now I look at it and say, okay, like I can't go back and write that sentence in my book, but I'm looking at it now and saying like, okay, since I'm growing, like it's a death in many different forms, not just the death of like that almost occurred, the physical death, but like the death of, you know, the relationships, the death of the careers, the death of the Marine, like all these things are happening. And I now I truly believe like I had to be back in New Hampshire for it to happen,
Mhm.
or I would have kept running. And whenever this is settled, I don't know when it is, whenever the universe says it's time, then I'll probably move my life a little bit further away, but not too much. I have a daughter.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and again, stuff that's important for you that you want to stay connected with. I'm a dad too, so 100% kids. Yeah, we're always going to have them in our lives on purpose.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about. So you say you did some shadow work for people that might not know what that is, because like a lot of people who listen to my podcast are entrepreneurs, sales professionals, just starting out, and they probably lean on more of the side of the go-getters, drivers, and maybe some of them haven't had that reckoning yet. What is shadow work? Or what do you mean by
It's
shadow work?
it's just that like dark side of you that you don't want to admit. Right. That's how I look at it. Like we all have the area in life that we try so hard to act like it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And maybe we're doing all these amazing things in life. And then bam, you have a regression. Bam, you have a regression. But it's not the type of regression that happens once in a while. It's the thing that keeps repeating over and over and over in your life. Right.
So
And
it's
so
like,
Carl Jung, he's the famous Swiss psychologist who donned that work. You can look more about it. But essentially, until we make that darkness light by going inward, like until we make the unconscious conscious, the shadow side of us will forever rule our lives.
so would that be, just to dig just a hair deeper, would that be more like acknowledging that, hey, I have an issue dealing with this, and then starting to at least first acknowledge it and then improve on it so that I have more control over it? Am I like kind of reading you correctly with that?
Yeah, yeah. So awareness is your first step around that pattern, and then going deeper into it, right? Like befriending it. So I write about this in my book. How I saw it is, so I have this dark side of depression in me, in
Mm-hmm.
that I call it the shadow side. Like it prevents me from loving, it prevents me from being happy, it prevents me from like really going on to do all these amazing things. And so in order to like move with that, I had to have conversations with him every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you want today? What do you look like? What do you feel like? Where do you come from? Like all these things, right? And I learned that by reading and taking courses and working with other people. And sooner than later, like the shadow is still there. I have a conversation with him every morning. He's just not as big as he used to be because I'm feeding him. Like I'm going deeper with him versus trying to run or just going wider.
Right. So you're addressing the issue. And so because you're actually paying attention to it, it's not something that just pulls you back.
For sure.
Okay, cool. I was just trying to make sure I understood that more in detail there.
Yeah.
So you do coaching as well. I saw that on your website. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I saw like some breathwork coaching. And then there was another aspect of coaching you do.
Oh yeah. So I did some experimental breath coaching over the last few months because I'm launching that with my book. But breath work, it's a live breath work session. And I think of live breath work sessions as like therapy in a funnel. We're not going to like talk. We're going to use your body to release years and decades of repressed emotions. Meaning, and I know if you're looking at that, probably scares the shit out of you.
Yep.
But what that means is that if you aren't fully breathing, you aren't fully leaving. So breath work is a way to really shut off that little voice inside your head or that overactive nervous system, that fight or flight, that I got to get done. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it allows you to just be with everything you are. Because you're breathing in a way that you're not used to, you're allowing more blood and oxygen to your body, to your brain, to shut off the nervous system that produces all that stress and anxiety, and just allows you to be and feel. And so when you transform the way you feel inside by breathing, you transform everything else on the outside. That's breath work in a nutshell.
So that will like help, like you release stress and all that type of stuff as well.
Yeah. And it's called breath work for a reason. It's very hard.
Yeah. I've done one or two little breath work
I want to put
things.
that out there.
Yeah. No,
it's really hard.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing for those who buy the book the week of the launch, like that will include a breathwork session with it. So it's going to be pretty powerful. And then coaching, my coaching is it's a 3-tiered system, and it's based off the hero's journey. So we do your initiation, then your departure from your ordinary world. And then as you cross the threshold, usually it's a 3-month or 6-month program. As you cross the threshold, after you're done your initiation and your departure, and you learn a little bit more about who you are and where you came from, then you discover how to trust yourself in the unknown by challenging your body in different ways, breath work, training harder, taking yoga classes, whatever it is, like we talk about it one-on-one, depending on where you're at. And then the last phase is teaching you how to release everything that you just learned, so you can learn to be who you are, and that those who do not serve you, or that need that you feel like you always have to be liked and loved by everybody, that goes out the window. So you understand that everything you need comes from within. And when you, excuse me, when you love yourself first, that's how you get to do cool shit in life.
No, that's really cool. So do you focus more on men with that, or men and women? Do you have like
both?
Both?
You know what? Actually, I have a small client base right now because I had to write the book. So I stopped all of last year. But it's actually all women right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And a lot of my breathwork sessions were men though, recently.
Well, but I think from what you're saying there again, because we were talking about it earlier, women are more, and this is a blanket statement, I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but women seem to be more in tune with themselves and willing to face their stuff more so than men. I could be wrong, but that's at least been my experience.
That's the truth. Women are generally more in tune with their emotions and what they need to do because they've been having that since like they were little. Girls groups, mother and daughter time, all of these things. And like guy time usually is like, let's go watch sports and like do this cool shit and all this stuff, right? Which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. We need that, but we also need to be real with each other too, right?
Yeah. And I agree. I think finding your tribe or group that you can do that with is key for men for sure. Because that's definitely one that I fight with at times, because I am definitely that typical go fix do type of dude.
Yeah. And so like, that's the one-on-one. And then when the book launches, I'm also doing a 6-week like virtual coaching book club with it. And it's going to follow the concepts in the book, because the book is not a 5-step process or a 10-step process. Your pain, your story, all of our stories are each too unique for me to give you a process to follow along with the book. So I break it down into different modalities that allow you to find out where you're at so you can move through it. And that's going to be 6 weeks. And we're going to do breath work together. We're going to face your inner child stories and all those things. We're going to go backwards first to get forward. And that's a 6-week process that walks you through the book.
No, that's really cool. I also saw on your page, or maybe in our group, that you are in the top, is it 100 of media writers on Medium?
Yeah, so it's not the top. I wish it top 100, top 1,000. I hit the top 1,000 3 months in a row this summer, which is pretty cool because Medium is a massive platform. I mean, there must be over 10,000 writers or so. So I do a lot of weekly journaling on there. It's legitimately a place where I let everything out from my head and into my heart on there. It's unedited, it's raw, and that's been some of my best writing. But I also write like other articles for people on there too.
Gotcha. So would you recommend like journaling for people? Because you were mentioning it's unedited, it's raw. I can just let stuff out, and that my mind went right to journaling. Would that be like a
Yeah, if you've never tried free flow journaling before, it's so powerful. And I know most people are afraid of their thoughts and things like that, but if you never really acknowledge them, you're going to be stuck in what's called an open loop. And when you have open loops, that causes stress, that causes anxiety. So you want to close those loops by getting it out of your head and into paper, or getting it out of your head and onto your phone, a voice memo, getting it out of your head and talking to someone. That's how you close those loops.
Yeah, no, that's good. I write. So I write for fun. I write some articles, and then I write science fiction and fantasy and kind of just write my own world, but it's therapy. So like, I'm not a great journal. Like I can write in journal, but I like more to write stories, and it might just be because I don't want to close my loops yet. I don't know. We'll see.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever works, man. Writing. It's just, I think so. I was listening to something the other day. I heard Francis Weller. He's like this amazing guy that does soul work and stuff. And he was saying there's a story about ancient warriors. And before they could become a warrior, they went through this initiation phase, and it was words, poetry, creative art, and then like war-based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I'm a Marine. Imagine if I learned art and poetry before I learned how to shoot. Like, is that a Marine anymore? But like, he had a good point. He had a good point because we are conditioned to believe like that we are machines in a certain way. And in that aspect, we lose the whole point of being human.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and it makes me think, 'cause I'm a history nut. So like, I think the Spartans did some stuff like that too, with it, but maybe it was back then they wanted to keep the humanity a little bit, because you're doing hand-to-hand combat, super intensive, gonna mind fuck you. There's no other way to put it. So maybe the art, the poetry, all the other stuff, it's one of the ways that they thought to, I don't know, keep them sane.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Different times call for different measures, right? Like, I couldn't imagine like World War II or World War One, like, you're going in and be like, wait, I need to pull up my journal right now and write and create some amazing art.
No.
Like, you had to develop a mental resiliency and trust to like enter the unknown, right? But somehow we've lost our ability to be in touch with our hearts too. And we are human. And so like the height of the human experience is to feel the pain and to feel the things. Like, crying is both painful, powerful, and powerful because you're allowing yourself to do that. And it's shedding things that need to come through, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, again, as a man, things that are hard. Like, I'm a lot better at it now, but there was like probably a 13-year period where I didn't cry at all. Like, just did not cry at all.
I didn't cry for the death, for the birth of my daughter, for like, there's so many different things. It's insane.
Yeah. But then you hit that point, then all of a sudden it comes out and it floods. And it's like, holy crap. And now I'll be watching like a show, because I have a daughter that's 6, and a cartoon will make me cry sometimes. And I'm like, what is going on? But it's just that process. I think it's that kind of.
It's a relationship. And it's also, I think it's strong to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's because you're close to my age, so I'm a little bit older, but we grew up in that stage where men had to act a certain way. And now our generation is starting to redefine what we really want to be as a man. You don't have to be the big macho guy all the time.
Yeah. And honestly, it's so much more powerful when you connect with other men to do it. That's the difference. Like, men felt, I think we've been trained to be isolated, which created this whole like lone wolf, I'm a survivor, things like that. And yes, like, winning in life, like, to get the things you want in life, do require isolation, do require those things, but it also requires a team. Right.
Yep.
Some of the greatest athletes in the world had a team behind them, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what I have learned. Like even in the Marine Corps, I had a team and we felt connected, but we still didn't like honor like what we were feeling. It was like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
next one. That makes sense. I was a warrior. We don't need
Mhm.
that. But this is real life. I have a daughter, right? And being hardened almost made me take my life.
Yeah. Yep. You have to find that balance for sure. I think the birth of my youngest is what really shifted my mindset with it. Because it was in go, 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 go. And then we found out we were pregnant because I have two that are older. Um, we have two that are older. And then when she was born, I was like, holy crap, what's really
Mm,
important to me? Is it important to me to work 7 to 7 so I can be the number one person, or can I figure out how to fix time so that I can spend time with them? And once I shifted that, here's the crazy thing. I make more money in sales now. I have more free time because I've figured out, at lack of better words, my containers on that. What do I need to do instead of I don't have to grind from 7 to 7. I don't have to be Gary Vee or someone that, that they like it. That's great for them. You have to find what works for you and for your
yeah.
family and for your stuff.
And I think like for entrepreneurs listening out there, like, okay, I'll be honest with myself, like restructuring this whole entire life to stop everything to write a book, like that hurts. Like the little voice in my head is like, you have an MBA, you're 37 years old, you were in a ton of debt from divorce, like go get a real job and be a man, right? That little voice inside is still going,
Mhm.
right? I can listen to that voice and probably have a pretty good life, right?
Maybe.
Or I can choose to listen to my heart, no matter how hard this struggle is and how painful it is, which it is, by the way, and be happy as fuck.
Yep. Yep. And
Because
that's
I'll tell
more
you
worth
what,
it.
like I am happy. Like I'm really happy. And don't get me wrong, there are days where I'm like, this sucks. Cause it
Mhm.
does. Like I had to drop everything. I had to start everything. Like I dropped I was an air traffic controller. I was a successful coach in the fitness world, like all these things. I dropped it all. I just stopped everything. And so here I am trusting my heart because I know that inside, like I only have one life.
Mhm.
And either I'm going to live in the direction of my heart and dream or someone else's dreams. And I don't want to live someone else's dreams anymore.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, that reminds me of like everyone talks about the guy in the arena, just the speech, following your heart, and
Yeah.
that reminds me of it. I'd rather get bloodied going after doing what I feel I'm called to do and enjoying life than to be stuck in what someone says I should do. And for years, I did it. For years, like just like you said, we get stuck in those little boxes of in our 20s, we do what we think people should think we should do. In our 30s, we kind of question it, but we still follow it. By the time you get to your 40s, you either make the decision to change or you die. Maybe you don't die physically, but you don't grow or move forward anymore. And I don't want to do that. And you definitely don't. Like when you said that, and this made me happy. When you said that, I have this voice that's saying this, but then when you lit up and said what you're going after, your whole face changed. It just like lit up. It was great.
Yeah.
It was like I could see the change on, yeah, this is what they want me to do, but this is what I'm gonna do. And I commend you for that. Like that just made me happy.
And it's hard because like I honestly have no clue, like most of us, but I have no clue what's happening right now. Really, I really don't. Like I'm building a new brand. I wrote a book. Like I'm meeting all these amazing people and I'm just trusting my heart, man.
And that's
And
good.
this doesn't mean like now for all those listening, like, cool, I'm just gonna trust my heart and stop. No, like we need to survive, right? We
Yes.
we have
Yes.
to survive. So like if you're out there like and you're in there feeling the heaviness of life in this career that you're absolutely despise, like what I tell everybody and what a lot of people say is you're going to have to do some dedicated work here when you're tired,
Mhm.
right? Don't just quit your job if you have no plan, right?
Right.
Like
No, don't
start
do
to
that.
build that plan on the side while you're living that miserable. So use that miserable life to pay for the dreams that you want to create, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now. Like
Yeah.
literally what I'm doing right now. I have a day job. I'm not quitting my day job, but I'm doing a podcast. I started a coaching business. I'm doing different stuff that makes my heart sing. It makes me feel more alive. And I think that's the thing we just need to give ourselves permission to do and be. But yeah, have a plan, reverse engineer it, and walk it out and adjust it.
And sometimes less is more. I learned that That one,
Yes.
like George, GB, right?
Yep.
I was with him and went to his seminar in April. And like I had this book and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I'm pretty good with all this like emotional work and stuff. Like the first day was like embrace pain, avoid suffering, all these things. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, I came here for you to tell me what to do, bro. like like I'm embracing my pain. I'm
Yep.
avoiding, I'm not suffering anymore. He's like, yeah, he's like, but you're doing all the things that you're doing because it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, less is more. And I was like, ah, okay, cool. Like, and so now I started talking about my book. I started doing less, right? Like I could work after our podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be 7:30. I've been working since 5 a.m. This is my sixth podcast today. I had a few coaching calls for what? To do work that's subpar. Right.
Yeah, you don't want to do
So,
that. No.
no.
Yeah, and I think
So,
that's the thing we have to understand. And I love GB. Like I met him at not at his master or not at his event, but a buddy of mine's event, and wrecked my world, had me crying. I'm like, holy crap, I don't even know this dude. He comes in, he's there, and just makes me open up. But yeah, I just lost my train of thought on that one. Sorry. I got thinking about
we're talking about less is more. Yeah.
less is more, right? And I've actually applied that. And since then, I've hit quota for the year in my sales job. I've had more time with my family. I've gone on trips that I hadn't gone on in years. I've shifted from money mindset to legacy family. What do I really want out of life? Because once you make money, you get to a certain point, you can only buy so much. You can only do so much with it. But who are you impacting? Who are you helping? What are you experiencing, in life?
Yeah. It's so powerful. And that's honestly why I wrote this book, because I felt called. I mean, I wasn't sleeping some nights. Like, this is cool. My wall is still like has large post-it notes, those sticky notes, like
Yep.
whiteboard notes. There's like 8 sheets with like lines and words. I can't read them now because I wrote so fast. But when I was going through it was like outlining my story in my book. And those are staying up there for a little bit. Because I look back and I'm like, man, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I had to like recreate that. And so I wrote that book because I was called to do it every morning. Some nights I couldn't sleep. When I was out with friends doing dinner, like it's like I had an idea, jotted on my phone. It was just call.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like something within like pulled me to do that. And that's how I got here today. Like I won't stop now. I write poetry all the time, post it on media. Sometimes 2 people read, sometimes 1 person reads. I don't really care
Mm-hmm.
because I'm doing what my heart says.
Yes. And that's what I love. Like with doing the lives, with doing stuff like that, I'm with you. It's not about who does it. It's about living how your heart feels, who
Yeah.
you can touch, what you can do, and expressing it. So again, because some people might have missed the beginning, where can they sign up for your pre-launch on your book?
Yeah. So right now, this is going to come down in a few weeks. Actually, so this will be, you said it will come out in September. Yeah. So just, you can go to theartoftoughTransitions.com and, you can get everything there, or just find me on Instagram, which is _George Kalantzis. All right. But the book will have its own URL, and it's going to be nowheretogobook.com.
That's awesome. Cool. So I have this one question I always like to ask. If you listen to my podcast, you'll know it. If not, it'll be a surprise, but it's a fun one. So you can go back in time as far as you want. You can go forward in time as far as you want. You get to be there for 1 year. You get to meet and be with one person, learn whatever you want from them, and stay for 1 year. Then you get to come back here. Where would you go and what would you learn?
I can go back as far
As you want. Yep. As far as time as you want. Talk to anyone you want to. There's no limits on this one.
That's a cool question, actually. I think like, even though it's a fictional character, like I'd go hang out with the Great Gatsby.
Oh, that would be cool. I like that show.
Yeah. Like it's a great movie. It's a great story. So I want to know like what's in this guy's head, because like he had everything, but inside he was miserable. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I felt for a long time, like created this massive facet, like process, like all this stuff. And inside all I wanted to be was loved. And I had this awesome girl. I couldn't receive love because I didn't believe it and all these things. And I partied and did all the things. So like, I would want to go back and to get that, and to even go deeper, maybe even meet Fitzgerald and see what was going through his mind when he wrote that story.
Yeah, that would be cool. No, that's cool. You're the first person to give me that answer. I've gotten a lot of people saying, "Hey, I want to talk to myself, or go in the future and talk to myself, or talk to a grandparent." I think someone wanted to go in the future and talk to someone so they could learn how to cook. I guess they weren't a good cook, but that was cool. That was cool. So
Yeah, it's just something different, right?
yeah, well, because it is like I have so many different people I would go back in history and talk to, but then there's times when they say I want to go into the future and be like, well, how does it end? What does it look like? What did my life look like? I don't. That's just how my mind works. So last thing, I always love to ask this too. So say people only get to hear this next 5 minutes, and you can go longer than that if you want to. What would you tell someone? What would be like your inspiration to them to make it through life, to go on, to find themselves, whatever it is? What would be your reach out to my podcast?
Like my phrases, like what would it say? I always say like, give yourself permission to be all of who you are. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and just listen to your heart.
That's good. That's really good.
And the reason why I say that, one, I wrote a poem called The Search on that, but two is most of us are running. Our minds are running. We're always worried about this, and this. But the center point of all life happens the moment we're giving a breath. And so if we can become aware of when we're feeling frenzied, lost, stuck, whatever, close our eyes, place our hands on our heart, take a few deep breaths, you can instantly change your state. And your breath is the only thing that allows you to do that.
Wow. That's really good. Man, I've had a blast with having you on the podcast, George. Thank you for being on. I really appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, and this is blast. I'm glad we met inside the group. I look forward to, the next few months. I think the group is growing, which makes it a lot of fun. And GB's been on fire. So
no, it's been great. It's been great. Thank you everyone for listening in to another episode of the 150K podcast, where we help take you from your dreams to six figures and beyond. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you like it. Likes, comments, all that stuff. I read them. I love them. Let me know what you think. And until next time, have a great, wonderful day.